I did my graduate work at Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati in Old Testament and Ancient Near East. My wife was doing her work at the University of Cincinnati in biochemistry. We decided to wait to have kids until we were both done, and so once I got my first job out of my degree, we began our family. One of the things that we decided was that we wanted to spend a lot of time reading to the kids and to use those reading opportunities to have conversations. And so I spent loads of afternoons and evenings just sitting on the floor as we read book after book after book. And I really loved it. So we spent a lot of time reading. Read to them after I got home from work, read to them after dinner, read to them before bed. And we just spent a lot of time reading and talking about the things that we read. My wife and I decided early on that it was not always very successful if you tried to prompt the kids to certain conversations. They seemed to feel like we were interrogating them. So we just decided that we would have conversations. And so we'd sit at the dinner table or in the kitchen as dinner was being prepared, and my wife and I would just talk about things of interest to us. And sometimes, of course, that involved Bible and science, because I was in Bible, she was in science. Our kids would listen, and before you know it, they would be chiming in and joining in the conversation. So all the years our kids were growing up, we had conversations around the dinner table, not planned, just sort of the things we talked about. And those were important times, not just for raising my kids to be thinking people, but also for me to be thinking through issues, for my wife and I to be talking about them together. It wasn't just I have this position and I'm set and that's all there is to it. It was always an open-ended conversation. And I think that was an important discipline for myself, just to be always thinking and interacting. And so the science and faith issue was big in our house, and it's not like my wife and I were trying to persuade one another to different views. We didn't even necessarily talk about what our final conclusions were. We just talked about issues. My kids still very much enjoy a good conversation and the deep thinking that goes into these topics and how we ought to be able to think about them.